Welcome back on this President's Day. Do you know which one of our leaders appointed the most Supreme Court justices? You know this. That would be George Washington, who put 10 justices on our nation's highest court. Remember, he had to kind of start from scratch.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. You would think back then there wasn't as much like bitterness or divisiveness as we see now during our presidential selections, but even the Senate rejected Washington's pick of John Rutledge to be Chief Justice way back in 1795.
All right, 221 years later, is there precedence for a president to nominate a justice in their last year of office? Well, Democrats point to Ronald Reagan's appointment of Justice Anthony Kennedy. He was confirmed 9 months before the election in 1988. Conservatives say Reagan only appointed Kennedy that late in his term after Democrats rejected his first choice, Robert Bork, and his second choice. Remember this, Douglas Ginsburg? He actually withdrew after he admitted he smoked marijuana as an associate professor at Harvard in the 70s. Boy, times have changed as a result of drug use, right?
They have. And because of the current makeup of the Supreme Court, there is even more focus, we mentioned this earlier, being placed on who gets to pick Justice Scalia's replacement.
Yeah, we talked about the voting bloc, really four conservatives, Thomas Alito, Roberts, and Kennedy, four liberals, Sotomayor, Breyer, Bader, Ginsburg, and Kagan.
There you have it. Now, remember, in cases that end 4-4, the appellate ruling will stand. That has enormous implications with cases on immigrations, gun control, abortion, and gay marriage, soon to be argued in front of the court. There's a lot at stake right now. So for more on this, we want to go in depth now. Let's welcome in Newsmax chief political correspondent John Gizzi and former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCaughey. Thank you both for joining us on this President's Day.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we have a lot to discuss about Justice Scalia, and we will get to that in just a moment. But first, we want to talk about Donald Trump. He's now threatening legal action against Senator Ted Cruz. He says he will bring a lawsuit against him for being born in Canada if Cruz doesn't retract his lies and take down his, what he calls, false ads. Betsy, very quickly.
It is impossible for a third party to vet the arguments between candidates about who's the bigger liar, especially when they're all politicians. But the fact is, if Donald Trump wants people to take seriously this question of Cruz's eligibility, he shouldn't attach it to a threat about unrelated matters. He should either file the suit or not file the suit. 2 suits have already been filed on this matter, but it's questionable whether the people suing have standing. Trump clearly would have standing. So if he thinks it's an important question, he should file his suit.
All right. Interesting, Betsy. Thank you. Let's get back to the death of Justice Scalia. John, on Newsmax.com, you write about the LBJ precedent. Lyndon Baines Johnson, 1968, 7 months left in his presidency, had to replace Chief Justice Earl Warren. It was a coalition of Republicans and conservative Democrats who stopped LBJ's appointment of Abe Fortas. John, talk about what happened 48 years ago and how that could affect what really happens in the next few months here.
Very simply, you're going to hear a lot about the LBJ precedent, John. President Johnson, as columnists Evans and Novak noted at the time, wanted to extend the liberal control of the Supreme Court, fearing that the Republicans would win the presidency. And that is when he decided to move Justice Abe Fortas up to succeed the retiring Chief Justice Earl Warren and nominate an old friend of his from Texas, Judge Homer Thornberry, to fill Fortas's seat. Well, there were a lot of arguments against Fortas, but the premier argument was that a lame duck president was trying to determine control of the highest court in the land, and would for several years, Abe Fortas being only 58 years old. And this led to the coalition that waged a filibuster for 1 week, a bipartisan filibuster that convinced Mr. Fortas to withdraw his name. And sure enough, Richard Nixon became president, and he appointed the next Chief Justice, Warren Burger.
There you have it. Betsy, conservatives across the country worry the Second Amendment is in danger of being gutted following Justice Scalia's death. Back in 2008, Scalia was hailed by gun owners when he wrote the Supreme Court decision that the Second Amendment does give an individual the right to own a firearm, overturning a local handgun ban back in D.C. Now, Senator Ted Cruz promises to filibuster any of Mr. Obama's nominees over concerns that another left-leaning judge will effectively get rid of the right to bear arms. Should conservatives and pro-gun rights groups be concerned.
Oh, yes. And in fact, it's very important that Republicans draw the line and prevent Obama's nominee to replace Scalia from getting appointed to the court. It will mean not only the end of the Second Amendment, it will mean the end of conscience rights. It will mean amnesty for illegal immigrants. It will mean legitimating the war on coal. It will mean sanctifying all of the executive overreach in which Obama has engaged. And it's very, very important. And not only that, but if Obama succeeds in getting through this nominee, right, count on him to encourage Breyer or Ginsburg to retire in the fall so he can appoint not simply 3 people to the court, but maybe 4 or 5, and literally shape the court for the next 40 years.
Right.
John, Betsy, you mentioned a lot of cases there. Another case I want to talk about that could really hurt conservatives, Fredericks versus the California Teachers Association.
Yeah.
It was going to be a landmark case regarding the collection of union dues and their use for political purpose. And just for our viewers out there, I want to go over this real quickly. According to the Washington Post, the conservative judges, including Scalia, leaning to rule against the union's ability to collect mandatory dues. But now with the death of Justice Scalia, and if the Senate does not confirm President Obama's nominee, the lower court's ruling would stand. In this case, the court ruled in favor of the teachers union. So, John, I want to get your take on this. This is one of many cases, and Betsy touched on a lot of them, where really the death of one man is going to affect the lives of millions of people.
Yes, it certainly will. And one thing that we have to note, Rick, is that if there is a 4-4 decision by the court, a 9th justice not sitting, that means that the ruling of the lower court will be upheld. Now, remember one other thing. The term of the Supreme Court is going to last only until May or June at the most. So there really is not a lot that the court can accomplish. I'll agree that they can make some major decisions, but we're also talking about a period of 3-4 months at the most.
And we're going to keep talking about it for quite some time. Betsy McCaughey, John Gizzi, that's all the time we have. Thank you both for joining us. Pleasure to have you. We're going to be talking about this for quite some time. Still to come, liar, liar, pants on fire. The heated exchange that took place during this weekend's GOP debate doesn't appear to be cooling down anytime soon. Coming up, what could work for and against the candidates during this Saturday's South Carolina primary. We'll be right back.